I used to think that scaling to $1 million means having to find a winning ad or a hero product that does all the heavy lifting. We would chase that one winner and ride the highs and fear the day that the winner stopped working. What would we do next? And that model created pressure and it created anxiety. And last year, we crossed $1 million in sales on this part-time project over here. Not because we found a breakthrough ad, but instead because we stopped trying to. We let go of the pressure to hit jackpots and started to build something a little quieter, a little bit more reliable. What changed wasn't product. It was how we think and approach the way we structure our ad account and how we think about creative. This video is about that system for how we can scale with calmness and not chasing unicorns and burning out. The shift for us has been when we stopped thinking like media buyers and advertising buyers, and instead started thinking like YouTube creators. What I mean by that is creators like this one that I'm showing here, Kyle, who I've been watching because recently I've discovered a love for body weight training after spending about the last 2 years focused on endurance, having spent most of my life weightlifting. We can see with Kyle and any YouTuber that we follow is that they build a channel. They build a library which we could look at as a portfolio of impressions. And by impressions, I mean impressions that they're making on us as consumers. We can see here that each one shows up slightly differently for slightly different people and also at slightly different times for the same consumer. And that's how we started treating our ads account, not like a slot machine trying to find a jackpot and not like a Hail Mary, but instead like a content channel. Because each piece of content in the account has its own job to do and they work together. We build the account with real people and real consumers in mind. The 24-year-old college grad who is buying this to whiten her teeth to look nicer on her Instagram photos is buying it for a very different reason than the 38-year-old mom of two who might be getting it as a gift for her teenage niece. Both are buying the same product, but what resonates with each of them may not be the same. So we stopped thinking in terms of the one ad to rule them all, and instead started thinking like almost a TV show in episodes or a YouTube channel where each piece of content is like a mini story, moments that meet the consumer where they are in their journey with the brand. Meta's platform has evolved too. Their system no longer needs one perfect ad. Their AI updates from the end of March that include GEM and Lattice and Andromeda and sequence learning all come together to let us know that their system no longer needs to have the perfect ad. Instead, what they want is a portfolio, a body of content that it can use to serve to the right person in the right place at the right moment. With their exact words over here, Andromeda is like a personal concierge who knows your tastes so well that they don't just understand that you covet shoes, but that you like to wear red flip-flops at the beach. With sequence learning, they say how with recent changes in our ads learning model, after purchasing a ski resort room, a person would now see ads for ski equipment, lift tickets, or ski luggage. It's personalization at scale. We don't need to force the path anymore. What we need instead is this right here, which is to show up often and to show up well, presenting things to the consumer so we meet them where they're at in their journey with us. There's an old Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore movie, 50 First Dates over here, from the early 2000s, where Drew Barrymore's character wakes up every day with no memory of the day before. Adam Sandler, what he has to do is every single day, every morning, he has to start from scratch. He has to win her over again, building the connection again. And there's a parallel here to how we behave online as consumers. Consumers will scroll past your ad, forget it, see another one the next day, and then forget that one too. Not because they're resisting consciously, just because they're overwhelmed. Because attention resets as fast as the feed refreshes for them. Which is why expecting one ad and one ad only to carry your ad account rarely works as something to aim for. It can be something that you let emerge and happen if it happens on its own, but betting the farm on one concept or one highly produced, very expensive piece of creative is no longer necessary. Instead, it's a series of moments. It's a collection of impressions, kind of like with Adam Sandler, having to repeatedly, over time, make impressions again and again. Instead of having the expectation that ads need to perform and make the sale on the very first impression that it served, we instead start asking a collection of them to start building warmth together. Some ads can spark curiosity. Other ads can relate to people. Some ads can reveal things to the consumer that they might not have been aware of before. And then some of them might just show the product being used and being seen by people who they can relate to. What we're trying to do with all of this is just connect. We want to connect and make an impression so that converting becomes a natural next step. They're kind of like mini dates that you can go on with your consumer where you're not trying to close immediately. If it happens, great, but we don't have to stressfully engineer for it. When Meta does its job, the moments can stack where familiarity can build and context for the consumer can form so that eventually converting doesn't feel like a huge decision. Instead, what we want the feeling to be is the obvious next step where buying from you is just a given. I think the reason why it can be hard for a lot of us to grasp the approach of building like a YouTuber, or rather why it might not be obvious at first, is because it wasn't an option in the past. It just wouldn't have worked. Back then with advertising, like the Super Bowl or direct mail or billboard ads, if it didn't work, you didn't have that many chances and iterations. Budgets just don't really allow for it. As an example, a lot of our current thinking around ads on Facebook and Google and TikTok and Snapchat, they come from the direct mail world, which didn't have the benefit of the technology that we get to take advantage of now, where we get a lot more shots on goal these days. We have the option to have more ways to show up and more ways to build trust at a fraction of the cost that it used to be to get the same amount of delivery and impressions through. Especially if you pair this approach that we're talking about of thinking like a YouTuber together with what we call risk-reduced bidding, which is leveraging Meta's cost controls and also Google's and TikTok as well, which we talked about in this video over here, where they let us set a ceiling for what we're willing to pay for each conversion or the expected return that we want to make, which helps with keeping the system more stable as it scales. And the way we use it is not just as a safety net, but also as a strategic lever. When I reflect upon the 21 million bucks that I've spent on ads so far, where about 7 million of that is my own money together with Alfred. With this approach that we take when it comes to thinking like a YouTuber, if I were to boil it down, it's actually more about giving up control and letting go. And for anyone who's in the know with David Hawkins, if you know, you know, it allowed us to build a system that could do the heavy lifting for us in a more quiet way that's a little bit more calm and without anxiety. Let's take a look at this account that up until yesterday so far this year has spent almost 90 grand. If we go down to the ad level, we can see that the distribution on that 90 grand is not concentrated on any one singular ad, because the performance isn't dependent upon any single ad having to be at an amazing ROAS and looking at things in isolation. Instead, we think about the spread of content that we use like a YouTuber, where we're thinking in journeys and relationships and evaluating performance from a more zoomed out, holistic perspective. It's not so much about turning off losers and scaling winners. It's about building up a body of content that shows up similar to a YouTube channel. One of the pieces can build curiosity. Another one can build trust. Another one can deliver proof. And we let the platform handle the sequencing. What we do and what we're responsible for is building up the library. I used to think that scaling meant more pressure and pushing the buttons harder, and that if you weren't tired and if you weren't exhausted, you weren't doing it right. So when we stopped chasing the philosophy of the one ad to rule them all and started thinking about a calm, curated system, it all changed. Sales get to come in without stress piling up. Yesterday, there was a spike. And if you want our personal help with implementing the system with you, you can check out the first link in the description below. So if you take one thing from this video, I'd say it's that you don't need to have a hero ad or winning ads. If it arises in your account, that is awesome. Take advantage of it and let it ride. Instead, what I think is more resourceful is to structure things so that it lets your brand show up in front of your consumer like a channel on YouTube and Kyle over here, so that your consumers can convert themselves into being customers without needing to have you on your knees trying to convince them. And if you want to see our process for how we use AI to come up with ideas for diverse pieces of content, just like YouTubers, watch this video next.